Welcome to the Attract Your Ideal Clients podcast. This show is for entrepreneurs who sell their expertise, including trainers, consultants, and coaches looking for real world, actionable marketing advice to help them identify their competitive strengths, find and fix the marketing bottlenecks that are holding them back, and confidently make the right marketing decisions for their unique business. In today's episode, we'll explore why it's our responsibility to proactively engage the people who might need our services and ways to build community and connection on LinkedIn to help you connect with the right prospects. Joining me today is Mariana Lacombe from Quantum Evolution. And if you enjoyed the show, I hope you'll consider subscribing and leaving a review. Here we go. So when we first talked, we were talking a little bit about LinkedIn, right? You're killing it on LinkedIn. So, you are practicing what you preach. But I wanted today to start out with sharing, first of all, if you can kind of just start out just sharing a little bit of your general approach with LinkedIn, open-ended, what's been working for you. And then we can kind of drill down into some specifics. So tell us a little bit about your LinkedIn adventure.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. Well, so LinkedIn was actually my first social media. That was very interesting. I had LinkedIn even before Facebook or anything else because I was in corporate and I was also in human resources. So back then, LinkedIn was all about hiring people, finding professionals. That was what it was. But it changed dramatically. So I used LinkedIn a lot. Then I decided to grow my coaching business. I let go of LinkedIn for almost 10 years. So I let it die. I let it there, I let it stay because I really believed that my clients would be on Facebook or maybe Instagram. So other platforms showed up. And then I decided to focus on Facebook for a long time. And it worked up to a certain point. So Facebook also changed a lot. As a matter of fact, today, Mark Zuckerberg just announced many changes on Facebook because of the many problems that they were having. People like me were having lots of challenges to actually find ideal people there. So as I'm transitioning my business, I decided to come back to LinkedIn in the beginning of 2024 to find that my profile was dead. I did everything I was doing before and nothing really worked. So what I discovered is that LinkedIn is now the easiest technology actually or platform to hack the algorithm, but very few people know how to do that. So I was very curious to know what other people, very successful people were doing on LinkedIn. And then I discovered as well that it's all about community. Marcus, it's very different than other platforms out there where you build it based on viral content. But LinkedIn is about networking. It's about community. It is truly about building strong professional relationships. And that's what I like. So before this call, we were talking about AI and the impact of AI and how important it is to have the human touch. And LinkedIn allows you to do that. So once I figured that out, then I started to build relationships with people who are doing really well on LinkedIn. And little by little, I did a CPR on my profile and it started to work really well. So I'm saying this because maybe whoever is watching this, if you're not getting the visibility that you need on LinkedIn, it's probably because you don't know the rules behind the curtains, right? Behind the scenes, like you really don't know what's happening. And you're trying to replicate what works on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube on LinkedIn, and that's not how that works. So I would say I did find out that LinkedIn is actually the best platform for at least my audience. And it is truly about relationships, Marcus. It's truly about like the human touch.
Let me ask you real quick before we get into those different approaches for, hacking the algorithm and making the best use of LinkedIn in particular. What is your audience? Could you describe what type of coaching you do and who your audience is? So, when people listening are comparing it to Facebook or other platforms, they understand, okay, for this audience, this might be most applicable.
Yes, that's a great question. So I work with CEO founders, with entrepreneurs, people who are doing business. They're business creators. So they are on LinkedIn. They're there or building their own personal brand, or they are hiring, or they are sharing about their business. They are business owners. And I work with the ones who are very overworked, who are working too many hours, burning out, trying everything with no systems, throwing spaghetti in the wall, seeing if it sticks. And I help them work less, systematize their business, their way of being, their life, so that they can work fewer hours and earn more and build wealth. So, this is really a conversation that's very relevant in the LinkedIn world. And that was the pivot. So, for a long time, LinkedIn was really seen as a hiring platform. But right now, it is a platform where business owners hang out to build relationships, these networks, or they are looking for top talent, or they're looking for ideal clients, or they're promoting their business, creating partnerships. Everything is in there, but especially ideal clients. I know that's your podcast. You can literally find anyone on LinkedIn with with a few steps. And that is not real in any other platform. So let's say I want to find specific CEO founders in South Florida in the beverage industry that are investing in new businesses, whatever. Like LinkedIn gives me all of these filters to narrow down a very, very small or niched, let's say, audience, so I can go to them directly as if I am in an event giving them my business card, right? It's that personal. So, but not a lot of people know how to do that.
Well, yeah, and take a quick pause on that too. That's one of the things I love so much about LinkedIn, as opposed to going to a networking event where, I don't enjoy networking events, right?
Me
Because of that
neither.
very reason. Feels very random, and I don't generally find it, if you're talking about generic events locally, whatever, they're not necessarily, there are a lot of people trying to sell each other stuff, which isn't necessarily the best environment for what I'm trying to do. I want to be very targeted, like you said, right? And I'm curious what you mentioned about with LinkedIn being able to focus on that kind of niche. Are you using primarily the free LinkedIn, or do you use Sales Navigator?
So I don't use Sales Navigator right now because Sales Navigator is almost like a CRM that's built inside LinkedIn. I particularly don't like the user experience of Sales Navigator, but I do use the premium version of LinkedIn because the premium version allows you to have access to deeper filters to find people, and you can normally find anyone at any time. So there is no limit. I know for the free version, you can reach out to a certain number of people. Honestly, I don't know how many people you could actually reach out to, because I think that because my account is so old, I was granted a lot of the features that new folks don't have. So I'm not sure. But I really like that. Like, different than a networking event that I also just like a lot, you reach out to someone with a business card, right? You contact them, but you know a lot about them already because you have access to their profile. So you know what commonalities you have. You know something that you really like about that person, something you really admire, something that catches your eye. So often when I'm reaching out to people, I reach out to them with genuine interest because I saw something in their profile that really caught my eye, and I can tell them that. I can say, I liked this, I like that. I see we live in the same location, whatever that could be. So when you're attracting ideal clients, I think that's the human aspect that LinkedIn allows you to have very strategically, but also I find it very genuine. For me, to be genuine and authentic when reaching out to people means a lot because I'm working with people who are already working too much and who are probably bombarded with messages and pitch slaps, So I don't want to be another one. And that's why I like the platform so much.
Yeah, and I want to mention too, for people listening that don't have the premium or the Sales Navigator, I use Sales Navigator and have for years, and I think it's very similar to premium. I mean, there are all a lot of overlapping things, but the pushback I'll hear sometimes from people is just because it costs, a little bit of money, it costs $100 a month or whatever, which is not nothing. But when you think about what the return on that investment is, the fact that you can so very, very accurately target people that you are really looking to serve. It's like people will spend $100 a month on much less useful things, right? So one thing I wanted to find out if you're able to, what you do on it, if you have the premium, because it kind of reinforces my position where people that are thinking about really looking at LinkedIn as a way to connect with targeted audiences, to really consider making that investment because it just forget the CRM part. I don't use the CRM aspect of Sales Navigator either. I don't need that. I just want to have those filters because it just saves me so much time. And also the thing with the authenticity is, the pitch slapping is something we all experience. And I wanted to ask you, when you're reaching out to people, what is your approach? You mentioned there's things that we can talk about that we have in common. I'm curious to find out what you feel about um the kind of relevance or the appropriateness, let's say, of really just coming straight out and being like, hey, this is what I do and this is how I might be able to help you. Because I think that sometimes people think any kind of approach of value or offer to help is somehow a pitch or a pitch slap. And from my perspective, if you're going in with one thing, like, I see this a lot with me, I'll get something and say, hey, I see you are somebody who lives in Ohio. I also know somebody in Ohio, and let's connect. And you connect. And the next thing you know, they then pitch slap me, right? Versus if somebody just comes up and be like, hey, I noticed from your profile that you do this, this, and this. Whatever it is, right? It's very kind of targeted. I just want to kind of get your opinion on that approach versus like if that's something you feel is still kind of too aggressive, let's say.
Yes, yes, that's a really great point. Well, I want to answer this question just by saying first that I believe that sales is an act of service. So if I am reaching out to someone and being very straightforward with what I have, it is because I really believe that I can help. And I'm talking to you, I feel my heart pounding, right? So I have that. I think that a lot of people do reach out to others not from a place of service, not from a place of, I see you, I saw an opportunity, I really believe I can help you. So they reach out to people with this intention of taking something from them, and that's what people don't like, and they feel it. So we have these spidey senses that are going to be activated when you feel that someone wants to take something from you instead of showing up to give you something, which is access to that solution. So I think that's kind of how I reach out to people, Marcus. I I do. I also follow somehow of an instinct or a gut reaction when I see someone that comments something, that says something, and I feel the pain or I feel the challenge there. And then I reach out to them and say, hey, I saw this comment, I saw this post, I've, I'm sorry, or I feel you, I believe I can help you. So then I'm very straightforward because they could be praying for the solution that I have, and it's very sad to know that I could be of service, but I'm not saying anything because I'm afraid of sounding salesy. I'm very mindful of that.
I think a lot of people are, and I want to drill down on this a little bit because I think it's something I've thought a lot about over the last few months in particular, and this notion you mentioned before of giving versus taking, right? And I think one of the things I know I struggle with this still, less so now than maybe in the past, but I know a lot of people really struggle with the idea of selling in general, right? And the notion they come to selling with is that selling is somehow selfish, is somehow asking for something versus giving value versus offering, building a relationship. And psychologically, for people that aren't these kind of shark mentality, kind of like, always be closing, coffee is for closers type of people, it creates such severe dissonance in them. Like their values are not aligned with that approach. So they struggle because in their minds, they see selling as something very tacky or pushy, or you have to be really, you're always talking. And it's like, I say this all the time to people. It's like I read this in a book years ago, so this isn't for me. But, selling is something that we basically learn from the worst of its practitioners. So we see people selling these kind of traditional, used car stuff or whatever, right? And I just wanted to mention that real quick because I want to hear your thoughts on a little bit more about that philosophy because it starts with, is it in alignment with your values? And
Mhm.
from there, it's whether you're using LinkedIn or email or cold calling or going to networking events, whatever it is, that's how you express it or reach people through. And I just really want to put a fine point on this because I think this is where a lot of people struggle.
Yes, that's true. And if you don't have a good relationship with the concept of sales, you're gonna have a really hard time attracting anyone to work with you because you can have even clarity about who you want to work with. But whenever you're having a conversation that there is an offer at the end of the conversation, which is the sale specifically, if that is awkward, you're probably not going to get the client. So you're actually not really attracting the client. Clients can be activated by you, but they're not going to work with you. So I actually had to do a lot of work on the sales conversation, Marcus, because I used to hate sales with passion. I used to say that, when I was in corporate, that I could handle any department but the sales department because I hate these guys. And I really did. And I mean, and I had a lot of issues with the sales department as well of the companies that I worked for because I was more responsible for the delivery and for the outsourcing of services. And I thought that they just wanted the money because they would sell stuff that we couldn't deliver. So there was that kind of conflict. But when I became the business owner and now I am realigning my values or defining my values to work with specific types of people and give my word that I'm going to deliver what I'm saying so I can now sell with confidence. I'm not overpromising or lying. I did have that experience a lot as well of salespeople lying and then, or I don't know, not necessarily lying, but
Say
overpromising.
stretching the truth is being
Yeah, it's
generous,
stretching the
maybe.
truth. I love it. Yeah, something like this. So I was given the opportunity to reframe sales. And then I realized that sales, to me, this is my core belief about sales, is that it is the solution to someone else's prayers because of the nature of what I do. So I really connect. I talk about this. I go with my hands to my heart. I connect with these business owners who are working so hard, who are trying everything, who want to provide, who want to be better, and they give everything to everyone but themselves, and nobody knows that that's what's going on. And they live a life of secret, and they are sick, and they are losing relationships. Their body is breaking down. How come I'm not going to reach out to them? I have to. So it became something more like of my duty to say, you know what, I have an offer or I have a solution, and that requires a financial transaction because I also know that people need money to be able to have enough skin in the game. I have more than enough examples that that is true. So whatever I receive in exchange for my services is so much more about them than about me. And I know that whenever they invest, they will show up because I also had to increase my prices multiple times until I found the sweet spot between the what they were giving so that they can receive and show up. So I also know that in the sales relationship, what I charge is about them. And it happens that they need to uh, have this financial transaction just to be committed and have skin in the game. I've tried to give my services for free too many times to know that people will not do anything if it's free. And that doesn't help anyone.
No, and it also, you're trying to build a business too.
Absolutely.
And, when we're talking about selling, this goes, I think, to one of the things people struggle with. And again, myself, it's not like I'm, you know, exempt from this, especially when it comes to something like coaching or advising or consulting, something that we feel like we know something. And it's hard for us to sometimes really wrap our hand around that this has tremendous value potentially for other people. And the notion of there's so many people out there trying to avoid the whole thing by just not charging money. Oh, I'm not in it for the money. It's like, great, don't be in it for the money. That's fine, but you still have bills and you still want to make a living, and it's still nice to have nice things. And you can, if you don't care about any of that legitimately, then just give it away and do everything pro bono. But don't fool yourself into thinking that like, oh, I don't care about the money, when yet think about what, hardship it creates for us to be able to do the work we do and not make a decent living doing it. So in addition, for not only in the one-to-one situation you mentioned about charging a fair fee is not only in their best interest because it keeps them focused or it keeps them invested in it in the process, but also the more successful you are or the more successful I am financially, the more people we can serve. Because now you can scale, you can hire people to help you with the stuff that isn't core to what you do. There's all sorts of ways you can serve people. And then one day, if you're really killing it, then you can set up the free course, or you could do people do scholarships and things. But again, I think it all ties into to this selling mentality, which then ties back to LinkedIn, which I want to continue talking about a little bit, because again, it's how you're approaching people. Are you approaching people where it's like, hey, I have something really of value to give, and I know who I want to talk to, and I know specifically what types of problems I solve, and I'm going to go out there and be proactive versus I'm just going to post and I'm just going to wait for somebody to come to me and tell me they need what I have. You might be waiting a long time, right?
Absolutely, yes. I sell every day. That's my attitudes. And why, how does that look like? It looks like posting always with a call to action that gives people the clarity that they need, that I am there to help them out. So every single one of my posts will have a call to action like that. I can add value to people on a post and I can say, if this is like you, I'm here to help you and here's how, and you can reach out to me or comment and say something. So one of the many habits I teach is to sell every day. And that comes with the content. Or this is another thing I love about LinkedIn. You can see who is actually looking at your profile. So every day I go check them out to see who is watching me, but not necessarily doing anything. So I reach out to them and say, hey, I just noticed you looked at my profile. Is there anything that caught your eye? Let's connect. Or someone that's just following me, not necessarily requesting a connection request. You can also see that on LinkedIn. So I proactively go to them and just acknowledge that they are following me now, what caught their eye, and then I make a connection request. And if I see people with a profile, or if they comment something, or if they post something that gives me cues that they need my help, then I will proactively reach out to them. It just happened yesterday. A person on LinkedIn with a massive following, more than 500,000 people, posted something that was very concerning to me, talking about how much he was working so much, so hard, and he was sick and tired of giving everything and not owning his worth. So just to your point about sales, he was doing exactly the giving part, but not taking a stand for himself. And his post was all about, you know what, in 2025, I'm taking a stand for myself. I'm going to prioritize my kid instead of replying to people's comments. I'm going to do this, like talking about the things that he's going to do instead. So I saw that and I'm like, I'm not sure if this guy's going to see my message, but I'm going to reach out. And my message directly to him was, I saw your post. That's exactly what I do. If you feel like I can help you, let's have a conversation. So I do that. Now, only just to be specific, I do sell every day. So every post has a specific CTA that gets people to know what is the, like at the end, right, the specific offer that they can sign up for that could help them solve the problem that I'm talking about in the post. I do see who looks at my profile and who is following me. I reach out to them proactively. And then I also do filters with Premium to directly reach out to CEO founders in industries that I'm interested in and start a conversation from there.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned the word proactively several times, and I love that word because specifically when it comes to this, LinkedIn, even if let's say it's the only thing somebody uses, right? And there's some people that that's their primary channel or whatever. There's a proactive versus a passive approach, right? So I've done this and we've seen this, but there's the I'm going to post on LinkedIn and I'm just going to focus on posting every day or twice a day or commenting and all this stuff, and I'm going to wait for people to come to me.
Mhm.
Fine. And I guess you're being proactive about posting at least, right? But it's still very much an inbound thing. You're just waiting. Somebody's going to come to me. And then there's the proactive, I'm going to reach out to people. Yes, I'm still posting every day. And there's a value to posting, even if somebody doesn't discover you through the post. It's still when you do reach out to somebody and they look at your post and they're going to get an idea of what you're about, then you're at least giving them something to look at, right? But the proactive approach is really the key. You sell every day, right? And that means taking the initiative to make the touch point to initiate the conversation. And you don't know if they're going to want what you have or care, or if they're going to be like, why is this person reach out to me cold with a pitch or whatever? Like, who cares, right? Because ultimately, if you don't do that, you don't have any chance of helping them, right? If you approach it from that perspective where it's like, listen, I'm not trying to get something from them. Yes, it's an equal exchange or a value. There's value exchange there. But I think it's just such an important mind shift because I see people using LinkedIn and whatever else they're using. It's so much like I don't want to, it's almost like I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to impose. I don't want to come off as salesy. It's like, look, nobody wants to come off as salesy, but the reality is most people won't need what you have. And if you're going to reach the people that really do need what you have, you're going to have to take the risk of some people just aren't going to. And I'm learning that lesson every day. This is like my own mantra that I have to repeat every morning in the shower, you know?
Yeah, me too. Especially when you really want to help people, when you're really all about service. I'm all about service. We had a couple conversations. I know you are that too. And it's just that reminder that if you don't reach out to people, you're not going to be able to do the thing you love the most, which is to serve them. And it's not their job to come to you. It is your job to show up, to be visible. Because if you're not visible and if you're not telling them that you're available, they're never going to guess. Because actually, they can actually believe that you're too busy for them. Because people have also that conversation, right? The inner conversation. I'm not going to bother Mariana. I'm not going to bother Marcus. They already have a business. They already have other people to take care of. Other people are important. Like people have that tendency to minimize themselves, but that's why I say I sell every day, and selling every day equals I show up every day, I make myself visible and available every day, and I tell people how I am available to help them and how they can reach out to me as if they have permission to reach out to me. So I give them permission to reach out to me every day so I can be granted permission to reach out to them too, you know?
Absolutely. And a lot to me, again, exploring this, what sales means, right?
Yes.
Because again, I think it's just the conversation about LinkedIn and the conversation about selling, I think are just so beautifully aligned because LinkedIn is this direct platform. I mean, I'm 52. Back in the 90s when I was doing these Chamber of Commerce networking meetings, I would have killed for something like LinkedIn. Like I would have anything other than having to walk around being like somebody pretending to be interested about you while they're looking over your shoulder for somebody that's more whatever, so that all relates to each other. But again, going back to the words that we're using, I think about what selling is a lot of is owning the initiative or taking the initiative. I think you mentioned initiative earlier, but it's proactivity, right? And it's not just being the one who's responsible for taking the initiative. So we are the ones responsible for taking the initiative to reach out. We are also the ones responsible for taking the initiative to follow up, right? If you're in it, you have somebody that you've starting to build a relationship with, you had a conversation or whatever, and then you're waiting for them to get back to you. No, you can't. Yes, some people will, and that's great. But if you don't hear back, it's our responsibility to reach out in a tactful and skillful way. But that's, I think, what so much of this mindset is. It's like it's up to us to initiate the relationship, to build the relationship, to take that ownership of the process. And there is value in that for people. Not doing it in a way where you're pushing something on somebody that they don't want. You respect their wishes. If they say, I'm not interested in this, fine. That's cool. Thank you for at least looking at the email. But you're taking the ownership of the process. And I think that to be willing just to do that, even if your skills aren't perfect, even if the emails aren't perfectly written or your cold call is whatever, just that fact, I think, differentiates the real, just top level people in any field versus the people that struggle.
Yes. When you take ownership for anything, for all results you're getting or not getting, you have your power back to you. It is in your hands, the kind of results you can get, and that is power. That's why I take full ownership. So if there's anything I can do to be proactive or to show people that they do have permission to reach out to me, that is on me. If people are not reaching out to me, that means or I'm not visible enough, or I'm not perceived as available enough, or I'm not talking to my audience. I'm speaking about something that has nothing to do with the people who are watching it. They're not going to connect. So also being super specific about who you help, your audience, and being in your, how can I say, like playing your game, minding your business. I think that's also really key, because you're talking about values, you're talking about sales. Everything is so interconnected. So my beliefs will be translated into posts, content that people will see. If you look at my profile, if you look at my banner, if you look at my pictures, if you look at everything, you will see that there are very specific values that are very clear. So if you disagree with some of my values, you're simply not going to reach out to me, which is perfectly fine. Now, but if you do, connect with my values, if my values activate you and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this is pretty fantastic, this makes sense. Like today, I posted something that I know always creates some type of friction. And the conversation is all about people not trading time for money anymore. And I give people 4 examples of how they can make $1 million. So one is to work 10 hours and make $400 per hour. And then I keep telling what that is. So I got like 99% of people say, oh my God, this is 100% true. But one person left a very, very rude comment saying, what the F are you talking about? Who the F charges $400 per hour for something? Are you even donating some of this money to those in need? Like, this guy went bananas, right? And this person's not even reading my content, because it's not about charging per hour. It's none of those things. I'm speaking to business owners. Exactly. I'm speaking to business owners, and it's the value of what they do. If they're gonna dedicate an hour of their time to close a 100K deal instead of doing the job that someone that gets paid $50 per hour, that is too expensive for a company. Their hours too expensive. So that was the whole conversation. So what do I mean by this? That it's really nice when your content attracts and also repels, because then you have permission to reach out to people who are really engaging with you. That means, well, they're giving you lots of cues. They're giving you cues that they really acknowledge what you're saying. They see the value. They agree with you. They share stories. This post online is so funny. I got this hater, quote unquote, that actually was banned already. He's not on LinkedIn anymore just because of his rudeness. He had 13 connections and he was all full of
that tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. But this post actually got me 3 calls booked. The same post. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a post with the most negative reaction from one individual. Plus, I'm not sure who else never really engaged. But it really spoke to those who needed the message. And that's kind of where we have to have like really strong beliefs about sales, really strong beliefs about sales. So you don't catch yourself with that conversation, I'm being inadequate or I'm being controversial, I'm going to upset people. Okay, great, but your audience will listen to you. And
Yeah.
that's why I really love LinkedIn because it gives you like a very quick response.
Yeah, you get immediate feedback, right? But it also speaks to this now gets to the core of positioning and marketing yourself. Like, where do you start when you think about the problem you solve and your perspective on it and who you're going to serve? So there's some people that like chase trends, right? So I use this as an example. It's amazing to me how in the 3 years that ChatGPT has become a word, a mainstream thing, how quickly there's been ChatGPT/AI experts popping up all over the place. It's just a weird coincidence to me. Some of those people I'm sure are passionate about AI and ChatGPT and they love it. I would imagine there's plenty of people that are just chasing a trend. And I think that that applies to anything else, whether it's leadership training or any other aspect of what we're doing. And the point of all that is like, it starts with us. We're not starting a company where we're looking at it, at least the people listening, and I'm assuming you, and I know for me, where we're like, okay, we're starting with VC funding, and we have to figure out where the market open, or where the blue ocean strategy is, whatever. We're like starting with who we are, what we care about, what are the problems we're passionate and care about solving, who do we love working with. And when you start with that and say, these are the people that I want to really connect with. Now, you don't have to go out of your way to be controversial. That might be a personality. Some people are like that. But just the fact that you can stake a flag in the ground and say, this is what I stand for. And I can change, I can learn, I can adapt. But ultimately, I have a position, right? And knowing if you're putting that stuff out there, you might not get hate mail like you get, or somebody that's so offended by the fact that somebody could charge $400 an hour, which by the way is not that much. I mean, it's a
Right.
lot, right? But I'm not saying it's just like there's consultants that do a lot more than that. So $400 an hour would be like, I don't know if I want to go back to the small clients, you know. But again, it goes back to like, somebody being offended by that obviously has their own issues about value, about, what value really is. The idea that if you charge $400 an hour that you somehow didn't earn it and you should donate the rest of it, donate it if you want. But like if you're creating millions of dollars in value for a client, yes, charge $800,000 for it. That makes total sense.
Mhm.
So a little bit of a rant there at the end, but I'll calm down now. But yeah, so as we close out, I want to make sure that people listening, we talked a little bit about some of the specifics with LinkedIn, and we certainly explored some philosophical things, which I appreciate. We got to do that. But as we close out, could you share with somebody, let's say, you're picturing somebody who they're on LinkedIn, they have a profile, maybe they post, periodically or every day even, but they're still kind of struggling. They're not getting 3 calls from a post,
Mhm.
they're not even getting the haters, right? And, for somebody in that situation, what would you suggest that they start with just to get some momentum going?
Yes. So to start, definitely take a look at your positioning. Like you said, it's about you. You are the blue ocean. That's how I see it. You are the blue ocean. As long as you hold your space and you know where you are and who exactly you're speaking to, there will ever be fish for you. There's plenty of fish in that space because nobody else can be yourself. So if your message is too vague, or if your message looks like someone else's, or if you did use someone else's message to create your profile, that's just speaking something there, right? It's you got to be able to have your unique blueprint. So I would say take a look into that. Are you differentiating yourself? Is there any sophistication in what you're doing? Meaning, is there any visuals, like anything that makes you unique and different? That's going to help you stand out. The second thing would be to make sure that the copy is a reflection of that sophistication or that uniqueness, because LinkedIn is also a platform like Google. It's based on keywords. So whatever you say in your profile, if it matches your copy, your content, then people will see you more. But if the copy that you have in your profile has nothing to do with what you're saying in your content, you're not going to be seen. It's just like Google. It ranks up and down, just like Google, with basically with keywords. Then the third thing is to not do this alone. So this is really huge. You know, Marcus, I see amazing people that are crushing it on Facebook, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Where they come to LinkedIn, they are alone. They are speaking to walls. They don't get any engagement whatsoever. It doesn't matter the quality of their content. LinkedIn is a community effort. So find a community. That's why I create a community for my clients too, so they can work together. Find a community that can help you build that visibility as well, because it is a collective effort. All the most successful people on LinkedIn, they never did those things alone. They have a group of people that support each other. So that would be my third. And then fourth is to stay up to date with all the changes on LinkedIn, because whoever rides their new waves sooner will get more rewards. Like last week, I just realized my profile has many features that not everybody has. Like I can have a slideshow in the banner.
I noticed that, by the way, and I was like, how come she has that? I have no idea how to do that.
Exactly. So even my marketing director now, who is rebranding my profile, he's like, you're the first person that I see having this. So LinkedIn is constantly changing. Whoever rides that wave early will actually be an early adopter and will be massively rewarded. But these would be the main things I would say. And I really have to reinforce this. Just don't do this alone. I now repost things that I started to post in the beginning of the year. Same thing, same copy. I would get 1 to 2 views. Now I got thousands on the same copy, same stuff. But it is because I did build a community. So it is a networking platform. It is a human platform. That's the difference here. You've got to be in community.